Hello there, and welcome to part 1 of a new series on this channel, Star Wars What If? So, the idea for this series came from a YouTuber called Thor Skywalker, who does these what-if scenarios for the Star Wars saga, and he has these several-part series, and a lot of them, pretty much all of them, are really, really good, and I wanted to throw my hat in and see what I could do myself. Now, I'm going to try something a little different, because most people, when they do what-ifs, usually do, like, a pretty common trope, like, what if Anakin didn't fall to the dark side? What if Luke joined Vader? What if Qui-Gon trained Anakin? You know. So I wanted to try something a little different, and that is something that a lot of people don't think about. What if, after Galen Marek returned from Felucia after killing Shaak Ti, what if he and Vader actually killed Palpatine? What if, instead of betraying his apprentice, Vader and Galen did actually draw the Emperor into a trap and kill him? And how would Vader and Galen rule the galaxy? How would the galaxy react? And how would everything change with Vader as the Emperor and Starkiller as the apprentice? Now, there are a few things that I would to make known before we start this series. The first is that this is going to be a purely audio-based thing. I'm going to have, like, one image of The Force Unleashed, and it's mainly going to be audio-based. So, treat this video like an audiobook or a podcast. As with every other episode in the series, it's quick to edit, and it already takes so long to come up with the story, and I don't have the time anymore to go fully in depth with some animated series. Next thing, I will be taking from both canon and Legends. So, there will be things from Star Wars canon that don't contradict Legends that will play a part in this story. I don't know how many episodes the series is going to be. I have an estimate, but I'm not entirely sure just yet. But yes, canon and Legends will be tying in at some point. So, and lastly, in regards to Starkiller's power levels. So, I will be using Galen Marek's power levels as depicted in the Force Unleashed novelization, not the video game. The reason for this is that the novel for the Force Unleashed actually neutralized Galen's power levels to, yeah, he was strong, he still accomplished everything he did in the video game, but they didn't make it so over the top. They actually made it so he struggled. And I would estimate, based on how the novel describes his abilities and shows it off, that he was somewhere around Clone Wars Season 7 Maul and Count Dooku in his overall strength. The reason I'm going with this version of Galen is because I don't think the story would be as interesting if we have video game Galen Marek just plowing through every single obstacle without breaking a sweat. Just ripping the Death Star out of the sky and just crushing it and killing Yoda and Sidious by himself. That just wouldn't be as entertaining, because the entire series would just be a ticking time bomb until Galen kills everybody. And, you know, that's just not as interesting. So Galen is kind of being nerfed, but also not. So it will be based off the novelization. So he's technically not getting nerfed. And it allows Marek to still portray himself as an interesting character who can combat the best of the era without being a Gary Stu. So we don't want Starkiller to be a Rey. Now do we? So with all that out of the way, let us begin this new series. I hope you all enjoy. We open the story with Starkiller, aka Galen Marek, as he travels to Darth Vader's Star Destroyer to face down Emperor Palpatine following his battle with Shaak Ti. However, unlike in the actual timeline where Vader betrays Starkiller the minute Palpatine walks in the room, He instead nods to his apprentice, and they both activate their lightsabers, ready to face down the Stark Lord of the Sith. Now, while we could do a narrative battle, I would rather give an objective statement about how I think this battle would go down, so we can focus on other plot points of the story. So, as I stated before, we're taking Galen's power levels during the Force Unleashed novel rather than the video game, where I scale him to about Dooku level. And Vader is stated to be 80% of Sidious's strength, and meaning if these two both have so much, like Galen was able to contend with Sidious at the end of the Force Unleashed, and if Vader's 80% of Sidious's power, I think if them working together as a duo, I think they have a very good chance of defeating Sidious, even if it takes all of their strength to do so. So Palpatine is now dead. Vader and Galen are pretty injured. Where do we go from here? The situation here is that the Empire isn't just going to allow Vader to be Emperor if they know he murdered the previous one in cold blood. There was even a clone ordered to kill Vader should he turn against the Emperor. The galaxy's not just going to accept Vader as Emperor if they know he killed him. So now, we get to the story. So after the death of Palpatine, there's a moment of silence before Galen then asks, "What do we do now, Master?" Vader replies, "The Emperor and I have discovered many senators preparing rebellion against the Empire. We can blame the Emperor's death on them before hunting them down." "And what of those in the Empire who sees through the deception?" Galen asks. "Then we will make quick work of them," Vader responds. "Now, we must spread word of the Emperor's death to the galaxy. I want you to go to Alderaan and eliminate Senator Bail Organa, a pain in the side of the Empire, and your first target." Galen simply responds with, "As you wish, my master." We then switch scenes to inside the Imperial Palace of Emperor Palpatine, also known as the former Jedi Temple, where Darth Vader now has all of the most imperial or most important Imperial officers and senators ready for an announcement. People like Tarkin, Thrawn, Yaloran, Mas Amedda, etc. The officer next to Vader stutters a bit before reading the words he has written on a datapad. My friends within the Empire, I am sorry to say that our beloved Emperor Palpatine has been assassinated." The entire room begins to erupt with a mix of shock, anger, sorrow, panic, and a demand for answers. Darth Vader then walks past the officers and silences the entire room. "The death of our Emperor was the culmination of a ruthless plot created by anti-Imperial senators, including Senators Organa, Mothman, and Bel Ibis. These traitors are already being hunted down as we speak, and will be brought before us for a public execution." "And who exactly is leading the Empire?" asks Grand Moff Tarkin. To that, Vader motions to one of Emperor Palpatine's Sentinel droids to enter the room. As the machine is activated, a holographic image of Palpatine's face appears. "In the case of my unexpected death, I shall appoint my apprentice, Lord Vader, as Emperor of the Galaxy, and Moff Tarkin as leader of the military, while Senator Mas Amedda as leader of the Senate. Both shall answer to Lord Vader as the final word in all decisions moving forward." The hologram dissipates and the droid deactivates as Vader motions for both Tarkin and Mas Amedda to come up before their Empire. Mas Amedda then declares that they will have a public Senate meeting telling the rest of the galaxy all this news. However, Tarkin gives Vader a stink eye, not fully believing the evidence placed before him. We then cut to Alderaan, in probably around the same day, and we see Bail Organa watching a HoloNet as Mas Amedda announces Darth Vader as the new Emperor of the Galaxy, while also scapegoating Bail and many of his friends as traitors responsible for the Emperor's death, which we all know they did not commit. It is then that we see a 16-year-old Leia walk into the room and watch the broadcast with an angered look upon her face. "It looks like I'm not making it to Kashyyyk anytime soon," she says. Bail gives his adopted daughter a friendly smile, although she could clearly tell that he was angered and worried about everything. "I have to make a call," he says, before walking out of the room. We see Bail go into his chambers and pull out a small communicator device from his cabinet and activate it. "Master Kenobi, do you read?" After a long pause, the voice of an older Obi-Wan comes through. "Senator Organa, is everything all right? I sensed a disturbance in the Force." "The situation is very bad, Master Kenobi. Emperor Palpatine has been assassinated, and the Empire is pinning his death on me. Lord Vader has been dubbed Emperor, and he's coming here. Leia is in danger of being discovered." There is another long pause before Obi-Wan responds. "Keep yourselves protected. I'm on my way." We then cut to the rogue Shadow as Galen Marek sits in the co-pilot seat, meditating, his lightsaber disassembled before him, slowly coming back together through the power of the Force. Juno Eclipse is watching the same broadcast that Bail was watching before she looks at Galen with a look of disbelief. "It was you, wasn't it? You and Lord Vader killed the Emperor." Galen sighs as he finishes putting his saber back together and opens his eyes. "Yes, we did it, though if you dare tell anyone about it, I will have you killed." Juno nods before looking away. "Don't you think people will start to get suspicious? Without actual proof that the Senate's had the Emperor killed, many will see you and Vader as frauds. And by that point, nobody will be able to stand against us," Galen declares arrogantly. Juno shook her head. "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" Marek asks. Juno raises an eyebrow. "Those people that learn that Vader killed Emperor Palpatine will turn against him. Rebellion will happen on a massive scale." "Then we will obliterate them," Galen responds coldly. The rogue Shadow then lands near Senator Organa's palace, as Galen, now dressed in a somewhat fancy shirt and pants designed to be form-fitting for combat, walks out and blends in with the fancy Alderaanian crowd. He makes his way to Senator Organa's palace and walks up to two guards who instantly drop their blasters. "Stop right there," one of them shouts, before both begin to clutch their throats and fall to the floor dead. Galen simply holds one hand out as the doorway blasts forward and crushes several more incoming guards. As more begin to enter the room with blasters ready, Galen simply ignites his crimson lightsaber and begins to hack away at his incoming attackers. We then go upstairs, where Bail, Leia, and Breha Organa are all hiding in the bedroom, as the sounds of blasters firing, lightsabers hacking through something, likely the guards, and the sound of electricity zapping through several light forms echoes through the room. Suddenly, the bed is pulled away, and the three of them see Galen Marek with his lightsaber pointed at them. "Senator Organa, you are to come with me to face justice." "For crimes I did not commit?" Bail asks, as he rises to his feet, facing the Sith apprentice down without a trace of fear in his eyes. Galen simply raises out his palm as electricity zaps outwards and blasted Bail to the ground as he shouts in agony. Leia shouted for the attacker to stop, and for a moment, Galen stopped and turned to the small girl. "You just tried to use the Force against me." "Tried to use a Force mind trick?" he asks in surprise. Leia seems very confused by this, before Galen turns to Bail and zaps him with another bolt of lightning before the senator falls unconscious. He then moves over to Leia. "The Emperor will be most interested in you, child." Suddenly, Galen finds himself being thrown forward by an invisible punch of energy, before he turned, and standing behind him stands Obi-Wan Kenobi, his ginger hair beginning to gray, his eyes weary yet determined, and his lightsaber already in his grip. As Marek turns to face the Jedi Master he recognized from Proxy's training modules, the Jedi Master responds with a simple phrase, "Hello there." With that, both Force wielders ignite their lightsabers and prepare themselves in their signature stances. We cut to Darth Vader looking out over Coruscant in his new throne room before his focus suddenly shifts, and he says one word to himself, "Kenobi." And that is where this part ends. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video and you were able to tolerate my absolutely terrible impressions of the Star Wars characters. So I wanted to read the script as if it were a book. So if you've noticed, it really sounds like I'm reading a book out loud. And that's kind of how I wrote the script, so you could have the characters' dialogue, how they interact, as well as the overall plot points. So this video is definitely one of the shorter parts, because I didn't want to get too in-depth too far. I wanted to introduce the story. I wanted to introduce what this series is going to be about, and set up the new scene. Some of the more other what-if parts are probably going to be a little longer, but this I think, was a very good introduction to this story. So, plus, I just wanted to see how everyone reacted to this. I know this is a very, very different video from what I usually do, but I am really interested in seeing how this story can move forward. This is probably what's going to be the main focus on the channel for a little while now. I don't know, again, how many parts it's going to be, but it should be for a little while. I'm really excited to do this story. I think there's a lot of potential, especially with Vader being a false emperor. And I think there's a lot to that. So I hope you guys really liked this video, because I know it's something very new. And honestly, leave your opinions in the comments. Do you think this is a good series? Do you think it's terrible? Do you think we should do more of this after? Should we continue this story? I mean, I'm going to continue it whether you like it or not. But do you want to see more stories like this? Maybe something KOTOR-based, or Republic Commando-based, or Battlefront-based, or something from the Star Wars movies or TV shows. You decide. And with that ends part 1 of our brand new series of what if Vader and Starkiller killed Palpatine and ruled the galaxy. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.